I live in British Columbia, and recently British Columbia introduced a state of provincial emergency due to all of the regional wildfires that are going on. Now, if you live anywhere in North America, you're probably pretty aware of all of the wildfire smoke that's been impacting us. You can smell it in the air almost sometimes. You can see haziness over the horizon, and sometimes you can even see it turn the sun orange. And I was curious, how does this actually impact our health? What's the science going on behind this? And what can we do about it? So follow along as I went down quite a bit of a rabbit trail exploring how smoke impacts our health. 60% of all wildfires caused in BC are due to the result of natural occurrences, most likely lightning. Lightning is actually the largest cause of wildfires in BC, and the other 40% are human caused, so using things like engines or open burning, throwing cigarettes or arson are unfortunately make up about 40% of wildfires caused in BC. Combustion is not a fully efficient process, and some of the byproducts of combustion include things like different types of gases, like carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, sulfur dioxide, nitrogen dioxide, or things like volatile organic compounds, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, soot, those sorts of things. And the real danger in smoke is that all of these different gases are released up into the atmosphere where different wind currents and air pressure changes can move these gases around. And that's why often you can be in an area where there is no wildfires, but due to the direction of the wind currents have essentially blanketed you in a thick layer of smoke. The real danger of wildfire smoke is actually particles that are smaller than 2.5 microns in diameter. These particles are really, really dangerous because they're actually able to bypass our natural nasal filter and mucus filter and make their way deep into our lung tissue, which I'm going to talk more about later, and cause adverse health effects. Okay, so the average person knows that smoke isn't really that good for you, but how it affects our body is much more of a complex story. So remember that fine particulate matter we were talking about, which makes up a large portion of smoke? It's about 2.5 micrometers in diameter. That's about 20 times thinner than the diameter of a human hair. Those are able to evade the mucus and hairs in our nasal cavities, which normally filter out dust and pollen and that sort of stuff from reaching our lungs. So once it gets into our lungs, some really interesting stuff happens. But even before it gets into our lungs, often people can feel irritation on their eyes or in their sinus cavities or even in their throat from wildfire smoke. That's well documented. On the respiratory side of things, there's an increased correlation between wildfire smoke and hospital visits due to exacerbation of asthma and COPD, which stands for chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, and also an increase in some lung infections as well. There are also some emerging studies now looking at the effects on our cardiovascular system. We know that there's some systemic inflammation and entry of these smoke particles into our bloodstream after they enter our lung tissue, and that can correlate with negative health effects like heart attacks or even irregular heartbeats. But the evidence here is a little bit more mixed. One global study across 749 cities found a 1.7% increase in cardiovascular mortality per 10 micrometer per meter cubed increase in wildfire-related particulate matter, which I thought was really interesting. Now, here's where things even get a little bit more interesting. There's actually a little bit of emerging evidence which shows a link between wildfire smoke and our mental health. There is a little bit of a link between depression and anxiety in both children and adults following exposure to wildfire smoke, although these were primary studies sampling from the population using self-reported data. And there has been some other studies that have shown conflicting evidence that there might not be a correlation, so it is difficult to tell. It's difficult to extrapolate if the mental health effects are due to the wildfire smoke itself or the effects of the fire, like having to move or sleep disturbances. But we do know this: people with chronic lung and heart conditions, elderly people, pregnant people, and young children are particularly at risk of the effects of wildfire smoke. What can you actually do to prevent the side effects during wildfire season? Now, if you're among the vulnerable population, you can actually avoid physical activity or even being outside where your exposure to the smoke is a lot higher. So staying indoors reduces the chance of that particulate matter entering your lungs and causing effects as well. HEPA filters, or HEPA stands for high efficiency particulate air filter, or a lot of filters that even have an MERV 13 rating found in a lot of aquatic centers and social recreation centers. Any place that kind of has like ventilation or HVAC will definitely reduce the amount of smoke particulate matter as well. And some people that are extremely vulnerable to it will even wear like N95 masks or something like that as well. So those are kind of some of the different methods that people use to prevent the effects of wildfire smoke on their health. Also, for your local area, you can monitor the AQI index or AQHI index, which stands for the Air Quality Health Index. This is common on a lot of weather apps, and you can also find it on your local provincial health website as well, to be able to determine if it's safe for you to do activities outside if you are vulnerable from the effects of wildfire smoke. So I don't know, kind of went down quite a few different rabbit trails in exploring what the effects of wildfire smoke are on our health, because it's actually so relevant for me living in British Columbia with all the wildfires going on. It seems that every summer we can expect a couple things: sun, lots of beach time, and also a lot of wildfire smoke as well. So stay safe out there, keep on learning, and I hope you enjoyed this video.